Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Understanding ChatGPT Agents, Use Cases, Demos, and Takeaways. I'm Michelle Robinson, the Learning Center Director here at SystemSource. As we look at the agenda, in the next hour, we're going to explore AI agents, how they differ from chats. We're going to give you some real-world business examples and talk to you a little bit about safety of using AI agents. At the close of the presentation, Jon will take, of course, any questions that you have, so please feel free to enter your questions in the chat. And then we'll also tell you about some of the classes that we have coming up that might interest you in regards to AI. But before we get too far in, I did want to let you know if you ordered a pizza, oops, no, you already ordered your pizza. I hope you did get a chance to enjoy those last week when we had to cancel. What I wanted to do now is just tell you about a little bit of housekeeping. So we are recording today's webinar, so you can receive a link to that after the session. We do encourage you to ask questions. You can type them in the Q&A, of course, at any time, and then Jon will address them. And if we can address them during the webinar on his behalf, we will do that. If you experience any technical difficulties, just use the chat feature or, and our support team can assist you from there. At the end of the webinar, we'll ask you to complete a short survey telling us about your thoughts on today's events. We do value that feedback, and letting us know what you'd like to see in the future would be really helpful. For those of you who are new to SystemSource, I'd like to briefly acquaint you with our services, just the quick overview here. Many of our clients over the years, we've been in business for 44 years, have come to us because they just need some help improving their IT. So whether it's training or new presentation systems units or consulting on the best way to handle their infrastructure or even cloud services, we have a team that's dedicated just to those things. And then, of course, once they're improving, they need to maintain them, so they come to us for service and support, and also through managed services. So reactively, we come to you for service and support. Proactively, we take care of things in our managed services team and can help you so that you can spend your time doing work on the things that are important to you while we make sure that the systems are up and running. And of course, if all of that is done well, then you have additional funds in your coffer that you can acquire new equipment and move to the next level of your equipment. SystemSource is dedicated, to educating through webinars like this, IT and business professionals, so that when you have a need for the service, that you have the right information to find those who can help you. It's my pleasure today to introduce Jon O'Keefe. Oh, before we do that, let's talk about some upcoming webinars. Tomorrow, there's actually a webinar on Power BI and making reports that you'll actually read. It's not too late to sign up for that. There's also one coming up on the 18th on urgent IT security lessons from the Verizon report. It's always one of our best attended webinars. And then predictable Azure costs, helping you to keep those in line. We also do SystemSource Top 5 in 15 minutes collaborative tools for power meetings. So this is with our presentation systems groups. I think you'll really love that. And in March, we're going to be doing From Data to Decisions using AI inside Power BI. So many of you who signed up for today's event might be interested in that as well. Pardon me. So Jon, if you'll move on to the next, we're going to introduce Jon. My apologies.
Oh no, there's no introductory slide here, so we just go right into the content.
Thank you, Jon.
No worries. Let me take over. I just want to say welcome, everybody. My name is Jon O'Keefe. I am the AI instructor. I'm not the only AI instructor, but I am an AI instructor, and I do fancy myself the AI instructor here at Systems Source. And I'm excited to have you guys here. I teach a variety of classes around what we consider generative AI, but namely focused on two main AI applications, which are ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. Today, we're going to be talking all about ChatGPT, and we're going to be talking about one of the newer features in generative AI, specifically with ChatGPT, which is called an agent. Now, before we dive deep into what agents are, I want to run through some basics around ChatGPT. When I looked at the attendee list for this event, many of you were afforded the opportunity to tell us what you were looking to learn out of this webinar. And a lot of what people are looking to learn is kind of the difference between how you might use ChatGPT in a very basic way versus how we might use this new thing called agents. So quickly, I'm going to run through some basic things about ChatGPT, a couple of slides, not a lot. And then I'm going to go into ChatGPT, and we're going to see the difference between kind of regular use and this newer feature, agent use. And we're going to go through some demos of what agents can do for us as end users inside an organization. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this all has a business spin to it. There are use cases for agents where you can do stuff for your personal life, and I'll mention those briefly, but everything today is kind of aimed at the business user. Now, before we get going, we need to have just a basic discussion of language here, because when I'm talking about ChatGPT, I'm going to use this word prompt a lot. And a prompt is just simply the way in which you interact with ChatGPT. Anytime I ask it to do something or explain something to me, or even the most basic of interaction, I say good morning, I ask it what the weather is, something like that, those are all considered prompts. And so many of you may have heard of things like prompt engineering, and this is ways in which we use the English language or our own language. ChatGPT can actually do lots of different languages. This is the way in which we'll interact with this system using natural language. Even when we're doing something complex like agent mode, we're still not writing code or using cryptic abbreviations. We are just talking to this in a natural language, which is why this tool is so popular. So right off the bat, if you're not familiar with this terminology, every time you interact with one of these systems, it's called a prompt. Now, it's important we understand that. I have a few brief disclaimers I just want to go through. This is something I do in all my classes. It's important we understand about the tool that we're using. Number one, ChatGPT is delivered as SaaS. If you're not familiar with that term, it means software as a service, which means that you personally or your organization is going to subscribe to this tool, and it's going to be pushed out to you either via an app or via a website. And the company that runs this tool, OpenAI, has a tendency to push out lots of changes. They change the design frequently. This can be a challenge for end users. Most of us are used to looking at applications that kind of remain the same year over year. Microsoft Office, I'm looking at you. But ChatGPT changes frequently. So that's something you always want to keep in mind. Another thing, if you're a personal user, you may have run into this before, is that ChatGPT has an unknown limit on the amount of prompts you get. Remember, a prompt is an interaction. One of the nice things about agents, although agents are a premium feature inside of ChatGPT, is that agents allow us to do certain things using a minimal amount of prompts. And when your system doesn't tell you how many prompts you get, agent mode can be a really nice way to accomplish things. It just requires less interaction with ChatGPT, which means that you get more prompts throughout the day. Finally, ChatGPT, just so we're all on the same page, collects your data. And it does so in an effort to be better for you. One of the reasons agent mode has become so popular is because ChatGPT, when it knows a lot about you, can self-direct many processes and kind of skip over some of the more basic inputs that you would normally use. Now, I'm going to discuss the difference between regular prompting and agent mode, but agent mode does rely on ChatGPT's knowledge of you and the way you like results to do things a little bit better. So the more ChatGPT knows about you, the better it is. Of course, there's a downside to that. I won't really get into it, but that is always something that you'll want to consider. And then my fourth disclaimer, in an effort to make sure that we don't spend a lot of time talking about this, I just want to acknowledge that these technology systems like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, Grok, all these generative AI systems out there have environmental impacts that are well documented and easy to research on your own. So if that's something you care about, please go investigate that. That is not what I want to spend all of our time talking about. And usually one or two people have questions about it. So the information's out there. And if that's something that's important to you, you should definitely go take a look. Now, one thing that I really like to talk to all of my audiences about when it comes to ChatGPT, and this again is an effort to kind of avoid this question later. So if some of you might have this question in your mind, so let me lay this out for you. The question being, is ChatGPT going to replace me? Is ChatGPT going to change the fundamental aspects of my job? Now, I can't say for 100% certainty that AI isn't going to replace any of us, but the goal of generative AI, ChatGPT and Copilot, is not as a main replacement tool. The goal of it is to help you with a lot of the different things that kind of circle around your day-to-day. And you're going to see when we use agent mode here that what we're going to use it for are things that we would do that would take up a lot of time. We're going to upload some policy documents and do some cross-referencing and use it as a tool to help us understand organizational policy. That probably isn't your main job, right? Your main job is you're an HR professional who sits down and participates in the hiring process. Or your main job is you're an IT professional who is responsible for tier 1 and tier 2 support. Your main job is you're a project manager and you're managing projects. The goal of AI is not to manage a project or replace an IT person or to hire individuals at organizations. The goal of AI is to help you with all of the little stuff that goes on around, like understanding organizational policy so I can submit a proper expense report, or preparing data analytics for a presentation that I'm not super familiar with because this task kind of fell on my desk. And that's what we want to use agent mode for, as well as most of our ChatGPT usage out there. So in this presentation, you want to frame this tool as something that can help you when it comes to all of the stuff that you do that kind of takes you away from mission critical things. Answering emails, reviewing documents, creating schedules. For me, one of the things that I use it for the most as an educator is comparing content. When I have to teach a class, there may be several different PowerPoints or PDFs around the content that an organization wants me to use when I'm teaching. And so I can have ChatGPT compare and contrast against the type of content that I am used to teaching. Therefore, I know the client's expectation versus what I normally deliver, and I can marry the two. I don't use ChatGPT to teach the class for me. That's the best analogy I can give you. So that's how you want to frame these agents and this discussion here. Now, one of the things that I think often is misunderstood about these tools is how we use them in general. Now, even advanced users, you may not be thinking about it quite like this, but there are basically two ways in which you use generative AI. And this spans the entire spectrum from personal individual use to business use. Any of the ways in which you use this can really be boiled down to two categories. I understand that that's slightly reductive, especially for those of you that are a little bit more advanced users, but I think it's good that we understand that when we use generative AI, we use it to do one of two things typically. The first that we'll typically use it for is to generate content. ChatGPT is what we call a non-deterministic AI algorithm, which means that when you ask it to do something, it can create something for you, and it's not going to a database of prefabricated answers. And you'll see that when we jump into ChatGPT in a second here. When we ask it to make something, it is more than likely the first and only time that that content has ever been generated that exact same way, which means we can use it for things like writing emails, creating blog posts, writing policy documents. We can also use it to generate things inside of Microsoft Office, for example. It can build an entire Excel spreadsheet. It can create a PDF. It can build a PowerPoint presentation. It can also generate images and code and video and audio. It can generate content from simple to incredibly complex. When I was in college many years ago, I wrote a paper for a class about the impact the Cold War in America had on American cinema. Yes, that's the type of college student I was. This was many years ago, early 2000s. ChatGPT was able to, using a mode inside of it called research mode, I asked it the same question that my professor asked me many, many years ago and had it tackle the assignment the same way I did. And it was able to generate a 38-page academic research paper for me in about 17 minutes. So it can generate simple emails to complex research assignments, code, video, etc. So that is one way in which we use generative AI, and you'll see that today. The other way we typically use generative AI is what I call the Google-ish of it. We basically use it to explain or teach us something. Now, ChatGPT can explain concepts from its internal database of training that it's received. It can also explain concepts based on information that you provide it, and it can explain and teach things based on information it can find on the internet. One of the major advantages of this tool is that it acts like an intermediary between you and the source information. For the last 20 years or so, we've all gotten really used to Googling things. If I don't know how to do something, I Google it. I then am presented with a list of websites. I click on a website, which hopefully takes me to an article, which hopefully helps me find my solution. Or more likely, I ask how to do something. I'm taken to a bunch of YouTube links and I have to click on videos till I find the right one. Now, with this tool, it does all of that for me and just brings the information back in a format that I want to see it in. And so generative AI does a great job of explaining things or teaching things. And you will see that in our discussion of ChatGPT agents. Now, one of the big questions that I think is important to understand, and this is the last slide, by the way, we're about to go into ChatGPT, is when do we build basic prompts and when do we use agents? So when am I just doing a simple prompt? Now, the first thing that I will typically use to describe this is answering versus doing. So inside of regular ChatGPT, and by the way, this is the ChatGPT interface. I just moved my ChatGPT over on top of the slide. So now you're looking at my window here. Oh, I stopped my share. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. I just want to make sure it's showing screen too. Yes, it is. Okay, great. So you're seeing my ChatGPT, and in the middle, as I talked about, is a prompting window. Now, let's imagine a scenario where we have a policy document, okay? So we might have something like this. We might have a PDF here that is an acceptable use in AI tools policy document for a university. It's got what we're allowed to do here, what we're not allowed to do. A regular prompt around this tool might be something as simple as taking this policy document, uploading it into ChatGPT, and asking for a summarization. Summarize this policy for me. You can imagine in the real world, you've been sent this document. You don't necessarily want to read it. And so therefore, you go into ChatGPT, and this is an example of it explaining something to me. I can ask it through the use of a basic prompt to summarize this policy for me. And after a short period of time, it's going to look at this PDF and it's going to create a summary for me based on how I like my documents summarized. So here's the high-level summary. Here's an expanded explanation. And you can see the ChatGPT is generating this as we go. And so this is the policy here summarized for me. I don't want to read it. I'm asking ChatGPT to essentially read it for me. That is one way to use this system, and that is a regular prompt. And so therefore, that's exploring answering. I need a question answered. Now, for agent mode, we're going to do things a little bit more complex. In agent mode, instead of uploading a single document and asking a question about it, we would give ChatGPT a goal. We would tell it the steps we want it to take to complete that goal. We would tell it the tools that we want it to complete that goal, and then it will complete that goal independently without us having to continue to interact with the system. Once the agent has established the results, then we can continue to interact with the agent, and it can create things for us based on what we're doing. It can explain things, and it can answer complex technical questions. So the goal of agent mode is to do a little bit more doing of a variety of things and a little bit less answering. So let's go ahead and switch to agent mode and play around with these policies here. You just saw me put in a policy from Riverview University into here and ask it a question. That's an answering scenario. That's a simple prompt. In our PowerPoint here, when we're thinking about it, that's kind of taking a journey to get to our answer. Because after we ask one question, we might not ask, we might have to ask a second question and a third question and a fourth question, etc. So this on the left is basic prompting. On the right is when we use agents, which is when we have a goal in mind and we want to set up a complex process. So here, let me again, I'm going to show you the difference. Now, this again, basic prompt based off a document that I uploaded. Now, I'm going to start a new chat, and I'm going to put my ChatGPT into agent mode. Now, one thing you'll note about agent mode is when I put it into agent mode, I have a finite amount of these. I have 39 of these left between now and March 11th. For disclosure's sake, my account is the $20 account here. There are free accounts, which are now ad supported. There is a $8 a month account, which gets you more prompts and removal of ads. And here is where I sit at the $20 a month. So I get about 40 or so agent scenarios about a month. It's not actually a month, it's close. There are other plans. Again, these are personal plans. There are business plans. I have nothing to do with OpenAI, nothing to do with ChatGPT. I just want to be transparent about which version I'm using, which is the plus version. So when I switch to agent mode, which I can do here in my prompting window, now I'm going to do things slightly differently. Here, I am going to, just want to get the right one. 1 second, please. This is the right one. Okay, so one, I have that acceptable use for AI tools, which I showed you. I also have another PDF that was emailed to me about data classification and handling. I have a third PDF that was sent to me about procurement and vendor engagement policy. And I have a fourth PDF about travel and expenses. So I've received 4 different policy documents. This probably feels very familiar to some of you. You know, your organization's got lots of different policies on lots of different things. So rather than continually repeat here by going in and just asking one at a time, kind of summarize this for me, and then doing a process called iterating, where I ask follow-up questions, I am going to create an agent here that's going to review all 4 of these policy documents based on some custom instructions that I'm going to give it. It's going to become a policy question and answer agent for me. That way, instead of having to individually review each of these, whenever I have an organizational question, I can go to my agent and I can just ask it the question. I don't need to review each document independently. I don't need to read everything. I can set up an agent that will become my Q&A explainer around our Riverview University policy. So the first thing I'm going to do is from my document here, I have a folder on my computer here that has these 4 documents in it, and I'm going to drag and drop them into my prompting window. Another way to upload them, if I didn't want to drag and drop, would be to select the plus, make sure I'm in agent mode, and then I can also add files from my computer. Or if you have it connected, you can even go to your organizational OneDrive or SharePoint and grab them from there. So you don't even need to have the documents on your computer. They can live in your SharePoint or your OneDrive, and you can go grab them from there. Just to make life easier, they're on my computer. I'm going to drag these 4 documents in. Is it possible to provide a link to online help versus PDF files for this task? So it would depend. Someone asked a question. Instead of building this with PDFs, right? Because these are documents that live somewhere, we can upload them. Is it possible to provide it with a link for this? So let's say your organization keeps all of this stuff on a website, right? Maybe there's Riverview University QA.com, and all of this stuff is on there. The answer is yes, as long as there are no credentials required to access the website. ChatGPT does not currently have the ability to go to a website and input a username and a password that you provided. So it does have a lot of API support, and they have a lot of different things that you can connect to. They call them apps now, but here you can connect to a variety of different websites. Some of these are not business related, like Instacart or OpenTable. Some of them are business related, such as your Google, your Gmail, your Google Calendar. But these are allowed. A website, like a random website that has a username or a password, can't do it yet with ChatGPT. So the answer is yes if the website is just live somewhere. The answer is no. It can't go to a website that requires a username or a password. Hopefully that helps, Lisa. Now, for my agent mode here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in agent mode. I see how many I have left. And I'm going to give it some documents here. So these are the 4 PDFs that I opened. I'm going to give it some operational rules here. So this is my prompt to get my agent to work. One thing you're going to notice about this prompt is this prompt is a little bit more complex than the prompt we previously used to just ask it to summarize one of the documents. Remember, I'm not asking it to answer a question. I'm helping it create a workflow. So I need to give it step-by-step instructions for the workflow. Here are the instructions I'm going to give it. Now I've copy and pasted this so that way you guys don't have to watch me type, because otherwise it would probably take me 10 minutes to type, given that my office is dark and I can barely see my keyboard. So here is the prompt. You are my knowledge and policy answer agent for a mid-sized public institution. Only use the attached policy documents as the source of truth. For every question, provide a short answer with 4 to 8 bullets. Cite the specific document name and section numbers. Provide a clear next step, who, where to go if action is required. If the documents do not contain the answer, say not specified in the provided policy and ask up to 3 clarifying questions. Do not invent policy details. Do not claim legal advice. The style I would like it output in is professional, direct, and easy to read. So this prompt tells the agent what it's going to be doing. It tells it where it's supposed to find that information. Now, Lisa asked about it being a website. So here is where I would swap out the documents for the website. And then how I want it to respond and what I want it to do if there are no responses inside the document. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to execute this. Oh, it's still uploading files. Hold on, please. Let me just remove and redo. Sometimes ChatGPT gets a little slow, so I'm just going to toss them in one at a time. Normally, you can grab them all at once, but every once in a while, ChatGPT decides it wants to be difficult. So here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to execute this prompt. This is going to start the agent process. Every once in a while, you get these little warning messages from OpenAI. Sometimes it can be a little difficult because, again, this is software as a service. There's millions of people using this thing all at once. But here we go. So this is agent mode. You'll notice this looks different than the way it was producing that response to that one PDF where I asked a simple question. So what it did was it set up its own desktop inside a virtual environment. It then went through and looked at all 4 PDFs, parsed their information individually, and created a combined knowledge base inside its system. So now what I have is an agent that is designed to do all of this. So I can ask it questions now, and we'll see what kind of answers it gets. So my first question that I want to know is, can I paste PII, like student names or student ID numbers, into ChatGPT to summarize the advising notes? So I'm going to ask it a question. It's going to go through, look at those documents, and it's going to provide me with an answer based on the 4 PDFs, the virtual desktop it's set up. So student names and ID numbers are classified as restricted data. Now let's remember, provide a short answer, 4 to 8 bullets. Cite the specific document name and section number and see if there's a clear next step. So It's given me my student names and numbers. The example section explicitly lists student names and number IDs are restricted. The acceptable use of an AI tool policy, restricted data must not be entered into an AI tool. So it's bolding where it's finding all of these things. If I need to summarize advising notes, remove or anonymize PII. Next step, contact the Information Security Office or your departmental data steward to confirm whether ChatGPT has been approved for handling restricted data. If it is not, do not paste student names or ID into the tool. Use institutionally sanctioned here. So, simple question. Now, here's a second question, this being different. So I asked something that was essentially about what I can do with AI. Now, not all of the policies that I uploaded are about AI. Here's another question. What's the receipt requirement for travel expenses? So even though my previous question was related to the AI policy document, now once again, the travel policy states that receipts are mandatory for any individual expense of 50 or more. For lodging and group meals, the policy requires itemized receipts. Expenses under $50 may not need a receipt. Next step, retain and submit the receipts for all my travel expenses. So totally switching topics, it's able to handle that. Now a third topic, purchasing. We're buying a $12,000 software subscription. What procurement steps do we need to follow? So again, you shouldn't be surprised. I've gotten bullet points in our next step here. I won't go through reading these, but you can see here the procurement vendor engagement policy specifies that between 5,001 and 25,000 require at least 2 informal quotes. Employees must do this. If the vendor will handle any confidential restricted data, we need a security review, all procurement records, etc. Now, I'm going to ask it, and I do see a question from Mike here. Mike, I'm going to answer that question in just a second here. I'm going to ask it a question. What is the per diem meal limit for New York City travel? I, as an employee of Riverview University, am going to New York City. I want to know how much meal money I'm going to get. I bet all of you have asked this in the past if you've ever traveled before. What's my per diem? And then you immediately start trying to figure out, okay, if I only spend $5 on breakfast, can I get that filet at that really cool steakhouse? Or can we go get sushi? We've all been there. Don't tell Michelle, my boss. I'm just kidding. She doesn't, I sit in my chair all day. She doesn't have to worry about me going anywhere. Okay, now we're going to ask this question here. So a little bit more of a specific question about policy. And instead of telling me something generic, instead of making something up, instead of fibbing to me, or what we call in the business a confabulation, we used to call them hallucinations, but then that's now kind of a misnomer because a hallucination implies that the system is alive, which it isn't. So here, not specified in the provided policies. So receipts are needed for individual expenses. To help locate the correct information, please clarify. Am I referring to federal state per diem rates or internal university allowances? Do we have departmental guidelines or contracts that say per diem? Is this question tied to a specific grant or program with its own travel rules? If you go all the way back up here, if the documents do not contain an answer, say not specified in the policies, and ask up to 3 clarifying questions. And that's what it did here for me in this agent. So agents are when we want to ask a variety of complex questions and have it explain processes to us. That is one way to use an agent. Now, Mike has asked the following question. I noticed after loading a lot of data, pictures or documents, ChatGPT can get really slow, then I have to come up with a prompt to start a new chat. Yes. Now, I will be honest with you that when you are chatting with ChatGPT, you are creating a conversational thread. Each of these things on the left-hand side are conversations I've had with ChatGPT. Now, what you're going to start to notice here is that each of these has a label associated with it. This is how you fix zip code formatting inside of Power Query, inside of Power BI. It is also how you do it with DAX. If you don't know Power BI, that's okay. But what you'll notice here is that I've asked a question here, and then it's provided me with an answer, and that is its own conversational thread. If I were to continue asking follow-up questions down here, even ones not related to this, I can create one single long conversational thread that can cover many topics and have many documents associated with it. I can upload pictures. For example, I can come in here, I can grab a picture from my computer. A picture that has nothing to do with DAX or zip codes, and ask, where is this located? Now, if I keep doing stuff like this inside of a single conversation, ChatGPT will slow down. So you are correct. The more I put in a single conversation, every time I ask it something in this thread, it basically has to reread all of this stuff. So as a best practice, you normally want to keep your conversations threaded. If I'm asking it how to freeze panes inside of Excel, my next question isn't how do I make buffalo chicken dip? I would start a new chat for that. So that is a best practice. Okay, thank you for that question. Hopefully that explains it. Now, when we're thinking about agent mode, we also want to think about, is it a single step or does it require multiple steps in order to do what we're doing? So regular prompting is usually best for single step things like write this, explain that, summarize this. Agent view is usually better for something that's more complex, like find, compare, extract, verify, then produce a finished dashboard. So agent mode can do more than one thing at once. Now, let's do another demonstration. Hopefully I answered your question there, Mike, but yes, ChatGPT slows down just like any other piece of software. A best practice is to keep each conversation usually focused on a single broad topic. I'm going to do another agent mode here. This time, we're going to go ahead. I just got to get my window open here. I'm sorry. And we're going to do some more complex stuff. And what I'm going to use for this agent mode is Riverview County, the county in which our university is in, has some KPI definitions and reporting notes. So these are their core KPIs, how they interpret them, what the narrative standards are for briefings, data quality notes, etc. This is a KPI definition and reporting notes This is basically information on how Riverview County wants their KPIs created, tracked, and also how they want their reporting done. So I'm going to add that to my agent view here. The other thing that I have from Riverview County is I have service requests, budget summaries, workforce information. I have an Excel document because of course we do. You all have an Excel document that looks something like this. I have Excel documents that look like this. We get it. It's Excel. It's the most ubiquitous software program on the planet. Everybody's using it to store their data. So what I'm going to do, that's an old Excel document. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to take this Excel document for my agent. Now, once again, I need a prompt, and I'm going to turn this agent into a reporting and insight agent. So the goal of this agent is to help me with reporting and insight based on the way that Riverview County wants reports and insights generated and the data that we have. So you are my reporting and insight agents for county operations team. You use the uploaded Excel data set and the KPI definitions PDF as the standard for calculations. When we ask for output, it must follow this structure: executive summary, KPI snapshot, what changed versus prior month, likely drivers, risks and anomalies, recommendations, next actions, and suggested owners. Here are the constraints: tone, executive ready, clear, and non-technical. Now you can see here, I'm giving it multiple steps that it must do in order to output something. A regular prompt might be, I upload that spreadsheet and I ask a question about it. How many people are in the blah, blah, blah division? ChatGPT can answer that using a basic prompt. Here, I want to create an agent for more complex answers. So now I'm going to go ahead and execute the agent. So the agent is creating code to analyze the sheet. If you know code, it is loading up Python. And that was pandas that it was loading to do specific data analysis with. So it is actually writing and creating a code repository for this. So once it's done building this, we're then able to ask questions about all of this data analysis that it's doing. Now, one downside to agent mode, and I'm going to say that while it's doing it here, is depending on what you're asking agent mode to do, it takes a little bit of time. One of the ways in which you can use agent mode, for example, that is not work related, but what takes about 20 minutes is for this. One of the things that you might have at some point in your life, and I'm going to show you this while it's building the agent, is maybe you want to make a specific dinner here. So you got a photo of something that you want to cook. You can actually create an agent that will analyze this photo, figure out all of the ingredients that are in it, find a duplicate recipe. These are the sweet corn tamale cakes from the Cheesecake Factory. It will find a duplicate recipe, and then it will order all of the ingredients you need to make this on Instacart and ship it to your house, including instructions on how to make it. Now that takes about 20 minutes to do, and it requires you to sign in with your Instacart account, but that is, again, something an agent can do non-work related. because it's still building this agent here. So while it continues to build this agent, it didn't take me this long to build it when I was testing it. Sorry, I have no way of knowing how long it will take to build these things. While it's building this agent, I want to, because we've only got a couple of minutes left, I do want to open the floor for any other questions. And it looks like we've got a couple here. And then while this is loading, I will answer these questions. And then when this is done, I'll show you what we can do with this. So we have many PDFs on a SharePoint site behind single sign-on. If I can't access the PDFs, could we upload them as a zip file? You can't upload them as a zip file, but you can connect your SharePoint. This is coming from Anne Marie. You can connect your SharePoint with a single sign-on. That is no problem. I'm connected to our SharePoint here at System Source with a single sign-on. And so you could access them that way. They can also be uploaded from a website. They could also be put into a Google Drive. You can form a Google Drive connection. So, but it can't read a zip file, at least not yet. How does one become adept at configuring the agentic prompts? Assuming this takes time to learn. So Katie's asked a question. There are courses that we do offer. There are 3 courses that are offered on ChatGPT and prompt engineering. The first one is an introduction to, and it's called AI for Everyone, and it introduces basic and advanced prompting techniques. So different ways we manipulate the system to get done what we want. And it looks at things like, what do we do if we don't know a lot about what we want to create? And what do we do if we do know a lot about what we want to create? Then there is a full day class about utilizing ChatGPT inside of your Microsoft Office infrastructure. So it's how do we create content with Excel, PowerPoint, Word. We use Outlook and we use Teams. Sometimes we look at things like Power Automate in there, but that's all about using this tool for Microsoft Office interactions through both connectors and through prompting. And then there is a brand new class that we are starting to offer in March, which is about creating agents, creating GPTs, and very advanced prompting using research mode. So there is a class, Katie, that you can use for this. So Mike said, thanks. I normally ask to create a prompt for me to use a new chat without losing as much data from possible. So yep, that can work. Would it be good to organize agents within projects? So I don't want to dive into projects because that's not what we are, but projects can be used inside of agents, and it does create some compartmentalization. So yes, that would be a good way to do this if you're familiar with how to use projects. Can I create an agent for my company to analyze and report on company information that anyone in the company could access? Yes, as long as you yourself have access to that information. What ChatGPT needs is the information. Yes, I can send Michelle a copy of the prompts. And the way we, so I've got some documentation that I created for this. I will send that to Michelle. Okay, I want to show you now, because this agent is done. One, it gave me all of this information here. So there's tons of information that it created. Now I can go ahead and ask specific questions beyond this report. So one question I might have is, which department is most at risk of missing SLA targets next month? So based on all of that analysis it did, after creating a Python environment to do statistical analysis, it's now going to analyze and tell me which department is most at risk for this situation. So not only do I have this full customizable report with KPI snapshots based on all of these prompts here, which, by the way, I can easily copy right into a Word document. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. So I could easily copy this right into a Word document. I can also share it with other individual users here inside my organization. I can then ask questions based on the December 2025 data. Code enforcement is the department most likely to miss SLA targets. So we can continue to ask a variety of questions. Now, agents, as we hit 1 o'clock here, agents are a very unique feature to ChatGPT, because basically instead of asking one question at a time, I'm able to give ChatGPT a variety of information and give it a variety of steps I want it to complete, and then continue to ask questions. I don't know currently if agents are in the free version. So someone has asked, do agents exist in the free version? I'm going to tell you in about 2 seconds. The reason I don't know that answer is because OpenAI changes stuff all the time. And in all honesty, I just don't remember. And it's just been a minute since I've looked at my free version here. So I
I
will
believe
tell you
it's
the
no,
answer.
John.
It's not.
Yeah, as of recently, it does not have agent mode.
Okay. So you used to get agents, you used to get less of them. And what I definitely don't know is whether or not it's in that new $8 version, only because I haven't looked at that yet, and that is like brand new. That came out like a week ago. I'll show you really quickly, just so you believe me. You can see how often they add new features. February 9th, February 4th, February 2nd, January 30th, January 29th, 26th, 22nd, 20th, the 15th. So they're constantly adding new stuff in. The version I use today, you're seeing my old gamer tag there. The version I use today is the Plus version. This is the version I am currently using, if you're curious about that. Okay, does anyone have any more additional questions about ChatGPT, agents or not? I'm not seeing any questions. Let me open the chat. Okay, there's nothing in the chat.
All right, John, if you wouldn't mind switching back to the
I wouldn't mind. I have 15 things open on my desktop. I'm so sorry.
that's okay.
There we go.
So we talked about a few of the classes that we offer. We do have a special offer for you attending today, some discounted pricing on those classes. The brand new class that we just talked about, covering agent mode, research mode, and custom GPTs, is there at the very bottom of the ChatGPT courses. Again, that's brand new. I'm really excited about that. And of course, we do offer courses for Copilot as well. And so whether it's ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, we can help you through those. Any of these can be done on our open enrollment schedule, but they can also be scheduled privately for your group and even customized to your particular needs that you have in your organization. We just ask that you register by the 24th of February, and you can email training, you can talk to your favorite account rep, or of course you can call that phone number. If you register online directly, you won't be able to realize the discount, so I do want to make sure and point that out. I have been a champion of using ChatGPT to create much less workload for my staff by letting chat do it for us. And so we have a lot of great examples that we can share with you. We thank you for bearing with us as we had to reschedule from last month, and I hope that you enjoyed your webinar today. At the close of the webinar, you will receive a survey. We do ask you to please fill that survey out. We will draw for an Amazon gift card from the completed surveys. you can feel free to tell us your interest in training, tell us you're interested in future topics, and we hope to see you in one of our future seminars. Thanks so much.
Thank you.